I've spoken in other videos about a big problem for Ford, a very big problem. Splitting their company into two, the internal combustion engine division and the battery division. Now, Jim Farley has basically echoed my comments within the last 48 hours, saying, yes, there's going to be huge redundancies, people will be getting fired, there's genuine fear in the company, and this is going to cause some serious challenges for the company. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Welcome to the channel that makes more videos about electric cars than any other channel that I know of. If I'm wrong on that, let me know in the comment section below. And I'll award you with I'll say, g'day mate, thanks for commenting. Thanks for educating me. Anyway, Ford. Well, Jim Farley, I believe, is the right man to try to save Ford. And when I say save Ford, I mean they need to be saved. If you don't believe me, check out my video where I compare the debt of legacy auto companies against Tesla. Boy, oh boy, is there some serious debt issues there. The fact that no one's talking about this is, honestly, I don't understand. It's like seeing a building about to fall and everyone just keeps on walking and says nothing. Yeah. Anyway, not sure that analogy is quite right, but you see my point, right? Well, the Detroit Free Press has recently said that Jim Farley says the automaker needs a totally different talent to meet its goals. In other words, he just basically publicly said, yeah, for the future, we don't need you guys. We need different people. We need software engineers. So you're going to get fired at some point, just not sure when. Ford's culture, I think, has been pretty good. I've seen lots of reports of different Ford culture. People have said lots of good things. They don't pay enough money for their casual workers. That's a problem, so they have a high turnover. But aside from that issue, in general, lots of good things happen at the company. But this is going to be a huge problem for Ford's culture and for Ford's efficiency. When your culture struggles, when people think they're going to get fired, they lose interest, their production rate goes down, their efficiency goes down, and they start looking for other jobs. Finding balance at Ford Motor Company right now is very delicate. Wall Street has applauded recent restructuring changes while some workers are cringing, say the Detroit Free Press. By the way, the Detroit Free Press is, as you can imagine, one of the most read publications in Detroit, where a lot of Ford people work in Detroit. So Ford people are reading this, and if they weren't already feeling it, they probably are now. The disruption at the human level, Jim Farley said, will be very difficult as the legacy automaker continues making dramatic staff changes designed to help the company compete in an increasingly dynamic environment, Ford CEO Jim Farley said. The disruption at the human level will be very difficult, he said. That's a very kind of nice way of saying we're going to fire a lot of people, but not yet. They need to make us some more money out of our, we need to kind of run our internal engine business into the ground, make as much money out of it as we possibly can. And then, thanks, but see you later, guys. That's going to happen. It's inevitable. Sure, they can retrain some of those staff, but there's zero chance they're going to retrain all of them. That's not going to happen. Pivoting from internal combustion engines to electric and dividing the company into gasoline and electric-based teams carries significant uncertainty, fear, risk, and challenges. My grandfather worked at the Rouge plant, and those jobs are going to change, Farley told an audience on March 10. Over time, when we get to 40% electrification, we're not just going to add 40% more volume. It's going to be substantial. That's another way of him saying, we won't be making internal combustion engine vehicles. We won't need a lot of people that work in that area. Those internal combustion engine jobs or engine transmission or assembly jobs, the suppliers, the dealers, it will change a lot. If we do it right, we'll grow. So there will be more work for everyone, but it will be different jobs. A battery plant job, a job making electric motors is totally different than what we do today. Now, the reality is that Ford will be disrupted to some level. Whether or not they go bankrupt, nobody knows. If anyone's telling you on YouTube that it's certain, then they're idiots or they're just clickbaiting you because they want you to believe their sensational story. I'm not saying that Ford will go bankrupt. They could. They definitely could. And I present the possibility in some of my videos where I talk about how that might happen, why it might happen. There's no certainty that it will happen. But there is one certainty, and that is they're currently being disrupted right now by Tesla. And I mean, even Kia and Hyundai beat them in terms of electric vehicle sales in January and February this year. Even though Ford is saying that they're massively ramping up, they don't seem to be ramping up as quickly as what they claim they would, which is a legitimate concern. They're being disrupted right now. They're being disrupted in China. Of course, that's significant. It's happening. Whether they like it or not, Ford will lose some sales, and therefore they will have to fire some people. It's inevitable. Christopher Smith, a former Department of Energy official with expertise in government regulation and sustainability, begins his role as Ford Chief Government Affairs Officer in Washington, D.C. next month, managing domestic and global strategy. So, in other words, this dude is basically a government lobbyist. And, I think these kinds of jobs suck. I'm not a fan that car companies have full-time government lobbyists working at them, because then they just sort of do things for their own interest, like Toyota lobbying the government in the US to try to stop them from supporting electric vehicles. So that's why I don't like that idea. But anyway, a room filled with people during the talk earlier this month listened to Farley go on about the importance of the F-Series pickup truck franchise to generate the billions needed to pay for electric vehicle investments. The hardest thing I think we're facing now is, how do you tell the team that's funding all of this, knowing that the volume is going to go down, knowing that there will be less work, how do you get them motivated to do that work while we're building these digital zero-emission vehicles? Farley said. Yeah, that's a good question. It's really good that he's very well aware of this stuff and he's not hiding it. That's what I like from Jim Farley. He's straight up. Part of the problem, he said, is that people fail to appreciate the ongoing value of Ford vehicles some consumers love so much that images of the vehicles, the Ford F-150 and classic Mustang, are tattooed on various body parts. Yeah, seriously, it's true. Lots of people tattoo Ford F-150 pickup trucks and Mustangs on their body. Yeah, I don't know why you'd do that. But anyway, even though climate change is a global issue and reducing emissions that contribute to the problem is a top priority among governments all over the world, the bigger opportunity is to make cars digital products, which of course will remove some degree of this emotion connected to the company of Ford. I think people actually get the transformation of the car companies wrong, Farley said. Fundamental change for us is two things: being able to have a digital product where you make the product better every day through over-the-air updates, much the way mobile phones and computers update now. And, it's interesting he mentions this because General Motors and Ford and many other legacy auto companies are making these claims to investors. They're saying, we're going to make, 50 billion, whatever these, I can't remember the figures, but these outrageous amounts of money. And the media is saying, how? And they're saying, through digital services. And then the media says, well, what digital services? And they go, lots of different digital services. So, clearly it's very important for General Motors, Ford, and all these other legacy auto companies to make lots of money out of digital services. Therefore, their vehicles do have to be digital. They have to have electric platforms. They have to sort of run in a way that a Tesla vehicle runs. For that to happen, they need to, completely change the way they operate. Ford employs very few digital software engineers. It's not Legacy Auto's model. Volkswagen have found it very difficult to transition their company away from outsourcing all that and to bringing it in-house. It's taken them a lot of pain. The same thing will happen at Ford. He even admits that himself. He says, the real problem with our vehicles they're not smart, Farley said. To control the car, we need 3,000 semiconductors. To control a car, we need 3,000 semiconductors. What? That's just madness. Anyway, we have about 140 modules that control the vehicle. So they need 140 modules and 3,000 semiconductors. And a lot of those parts come from different companies and they're going to connect them all together. That's complicated. Window control module, transmission control module, every one of those are outsourced to the tier 1 automotive suppliers. The software isn't owned by us. If we want to update the software on any of those, we have to go get permission from our own suppliers. Well, isn't it great how Jim Farley just tells us all the shit things in Legacy Auto? He doesn't say, you need to speculate about this and just, make YouTube videos and go, I think this is the problem. I think that. He's like, here's what they are. This is why our cars are not that good. Well, I was going to say suck, but I'm trying to be nice here. Creating an advanced electrical architecture like what's used on a cell phone, Ford can change the vehicle to include predictive failure for its vast number of commercial customers to avoid unplanned downtime, for example. And that requires a totally different talent, Farley said. We don't have that talent at Ford, but we have to make sure that talent works with the people at Ford. That's one thing. Next is a need for shared mobility. and the opportunity to rent rides because fewer and fewer people can afford vehicles. Electrification is going to make it worse, actually, Farley said. The biggest fleet in the US is Uber drivers with 1.2 million on the road. And the ride-sharing service doesn't use vehicles designed for them, he said. All the vehicles are converted retail vehicles. They're not optimized for a ride-sharing person who's running a business. So what does this all mean? Well, it all means they need new products, new talent, new people in the car company. And, a lot of the old people, see you later. They're going to have to go. But first, Ford's saying they need to make Ford a lot of money first, billions of dollars over the next few years, many billions, by the way, to fund the new people's jobs. Do you see how this is a difficult situation for Ford? Yeah. Now, no one at Ford is using the term layoff or buyout, but Kumar Galhotra, president of Ford Blue, has said the automaker will be working with employees to make the transition. That's a very nice way of putting it. We're going to work with you to make the transition into your next phase of life when you sit at home and do nothing. Okay. Sorry, I'm not laughing, guys. I don't want you to lose your jobs. If you're watching this and you work at Ford, I don't want you to lose your job. I don't. It sucks. Everything is on the table, he said. It has to be. If we're going to take out $3 billion over the next 2 to 3 years, in other words, take out $3 billion from internal combustion, put it into the electric division, we're going to work with our partners to do this in a very integrated way, he told reporters earlier this month. Now, this dude, right, at Ford, he's saying $3 billion. Jim Farley's saying a whole different figure. I think Jim Farley said $10 billion. So Jim and him need to talk and get their numbers sort of sorted out between each other on how much money they're removing out of the internal combustion engine business and putting into the electric business. To emphasize this point, Farley said that 50% of business is expected to still come from gas-powered vehicles until 2030. I don't know how he thinks that's going to happen. And those vehicles will provide a crucial funding stream to fund the electric division. He says there will be a lot of tensions in this new company design. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if our bet is right or not. And on that note, what do you think? Is Ford's bet on this right or not? Will it work? Will Ford still be around in, say, 2040? What are your views on this? I hope they are. As you guys know, I have a soft spot for Ford. I like the car company. But they do have a lot of debt, and they're in a very difficult situation right now. Now, if you're wondering why companies like Ford, GM, and Toyota have current supply chain issues, Farley told of an epiphany during a conversation with Chuck Robbins, CEO of Casco Systems, a technology company that develops, manufactures, and sells software, telecommunications equipment, and wireless security systems and services. Now, here's the story, right? When describing the supply chain for electronic components, including semiconductor chips, memory chips, custom silicon, which are now 20 to 30% of the content of a vehicle from a cost perspective, Farley described a dated inventory system that lines up raw material orders from suppliers to coincide with production schedules. Robbins, the CEO, was utterly stunned by the way that Legacy Auto does business. He's like, "You run that on just in time?" I said, "Yep." He was like, "If you single source one of those, do you have a design on the shelf, an alternative, already engineered?" Farley goes, "No." "Do you have software to get around limited chips?" "No." He's like, "I can't believe you run your whole industry system that way." That moment reinforced what Ford's CEO already knew. We have to change, and we have to change fast, or we'll be dead.